It is October the 3rd in the year 2025. On Earth, this date might mean autumn leaves falling in the northern hemisphere or the first blooms of spring in the south. It might mean traffic jams, ticking clocks, and the noise of billions of lives moving together. But here, millions of kilometers away, the calendar date is just a human idea. It holds no power over the ancient rhythm of this world. Here on the surface of Mars, there is only the dust, the cold, and a silence so deep it feels like a heavy blanket resting over the entire planet. Welcome to the Red Planet. If you were standing here right now, the first thing you would notice is the stillness. It is not the quiet of a library or an empty room. It is the silence of a cathedral that has been abandoned for 4 billion years. It is a silence that swallows everything. There are no birds to sing, no leaves to rustle in the wind, no oceans to crash against the shore. There is only the sound of your own breathing, and the occasional ghostly whisper of the wind slipping over the jagged rocks. The landscape stretches out before you, vast and unbroken. It is a world painted in 1,000 shades of red, orange, and brown. Imagine the colour of dried blood or old rust or burnt clay. That is the ground beneath your feet. It is a dry, rocky desert that goes on forever, broken only by massive craters and mountains that tower high above anything found on Earth. The horizon seems further away here, curving gently because the planet is smaller than our homeworld. On this day, the atmosphere is thin and crisp. The temperature is incredibly low, hovering around minus 60 degrees Celsius. It is a dry cold, the kind that freezes moisture instantly. There is no humidity to hold the heat, so the warmth of the sun escapes into space the moment the sun touches the horizon. The air is so thin that it barely exists, composed mostly of carbon dioxide. If you were to look up, the sky would not be the deep blue you're used to. Instead, during the day, it is a soft, dusty colour, something like butterscotch or a pale salmon pink. It creates a hazy, dreamlike light that makes everything look slightly surreal, as if you're walking inside an old, faded photograph. Let us focus on the light. The sun is here, but it looks different. Because Mars is much farther away from the centre of our solar system, the sun appears smaller in the sky, about 2/3 the size of what we see on Earth. Its light is weaker, dimmer. It does not burn with the fierce golden intensity of a summer day in the tropics. Instead, the sunlight here is gentle and distant. It casts long, sharp shadows behind every rock and pebble. These shadows stretch out across the red sand like long black fingers, moving almost imperceptibly as the planet slowly rotates. Time moves differently here. A day on Mars is called a sol. It is only 39 minutes longer than a day on Earth, but it feels much slower. Without the frantic pace of human civilization, time seems to lose its meaning. A minute stretches into an hour stretches into an eternity. The rocks you see have sat in the exact same position for millions of years. The craters have not changed since they were formed by ancient impacts. In this frozen stillness, the past and the present merge into one long, unbroken moment. It is a place of absolute patience. Occasionally, the stillness is broken, but not by life. It is broken by the wind. Today, a gentle breeze picks up the fine, powdery dust that covers the surface. This is not a violent storm, but a soft dance. The dust particles are as fine as smoke. They lift into the air and swirl around in slow, lazy circles. These are called dust devils. They glide across the plains like wandering ghosts, twisting and turning, before fading back into nothingness. Sometimes these storms grow larger, covering the sun and turning the day into a gloomy twilight. But right now, the air is mostly clear. The dust hangs suspended in the atmosphere, catching the weak sunlight and creating a glowing halo around the sun. It is beautiful in a lonely, haunting way. It is a reminder that even in this dead world there is movement. There is a cycle. The planet breathes in its own way, shifting the sand from one dune to another, burying the past and then uncovering it again years later. As the sol begins to end, the temperature drops even further. The transition from day to night is stark. Without a thick atmosphere to trap the heat, the cold becomes aggressive as soon as the light fades. But the sunset on Mars is a sight that defies expectation. On Earth, sunsets are red and orange. On Mars, because of the unique way the dust scatters, light the sunset is blue. Imagine standing on a red dune watching the pale pink sky slowly darken. As the sun dips toward the horizon, a halo of cool blue light surrounds it. It is a slate blue, calm and serene, contrasting sharply with the rusty red of the ground. It is a moment of pure alien beauty. The blue light signals the coming of the freezing night, a time when the planet truly goes to sleep. But tonight, as the sky begins to darken and the first stars appear unblinking, and incredibly bright in the thin air, there is something else in the sky. High above, far beyond the thin veil of the Martian atmosphere, there is a new guest. It is not a planet, and it is not a star. To the naked eye, it looks like a faint fuzzy smudge of light, barely distinguishable from the thousands of other stars that glitter in the black void. But it is there, and it is getting brighter. This is the object known to astronomers as 3I Atlas. It is a comet, a wanderer from the deep frozen edges of space. It has travelled for thousands of years, moving through the darkness unseen and unheard. It is a massive chunk of ice and rock, older than the mountains of Mars, older perhaps than life itself. From the surface of Mars, it looks peaceful, just another point of light in the vast canvas of the universe. It hangs there, silent and still, a tiny spectator looking down on the desolate red world. It does not look dangerous. It does not look like a harbinger of doom or a chaotic force. It simply looks like a diamond suspended in velvet. Yet its presence changes the feeling of the night. For eons, Mars has been alone, accompanied only by its two tiny lumpy moons, Phobos and Deimos. They are small and misshapen, racing across the sky like nervous children. But 3I Atlas is different. It is regal. It is foreign. It brings with it a sense of anticipation. As the darkness fully takes over, the temperature plummets to -80 degrees Celsius. Frost begins to form on the tips of the rocks, a thin layer of dry ice shimmering under the starlight. The silence deepens. It is a heavy physical weight. If you were to shout, your voice would be thin and weak, dying out within a few meters. But there is no need to shout. There is no one to hear. There is only the planet spinning slowly in the black void. There is only the red dust settling back down after its dance with the wind. There is only the weak sun now hidden behind the curve of the horizon and the blue twilight fading into black. And there is the visitor 3I Atlas, watching from the dark, its long journey bringing it closer with every passing second. Mars waits. It has always waited. It is a planet of endurance, a monument to the persistence of matter against the emptiness of space. On this day, October 3rd, 2025, the red planet sleeps its dreamless sleep, beautiful and terrifying in its isolation, unaware that the silence is about to be broken not by sound but by destiny. The stage is set, the actors are in place, and the universe holds its breath. High above the dusty plains and the silent volcanoes we explored before, the atmosphere thins out until it becomes nothing at all. Here, in the velvet blackness of space, the wind does not blow and the dust does not settle. There is only the profound, endless quiet of the void, but in this silence there is a presence. We are not alone here. Two silver travelers are drifting through the darkness, suspended in a perfect weightless dance. These are the mechanical sentinels. Let your mind float upward away from the red soil, rising higher and higher until the curvature of the planet reveals itself. You are now entering the domain of the Mars Express. Imagine a complex box-shaped structure wrapped in insulation that shines like gold and silver foil in the unfiltered sunlight. This is the veteran of the fleet. Mars Express has been here for a long time. It arrived in the year 2003, and for nearly 2 decades it has been the faithful watchman of the red planet. It is like a wise old owl perched high on a branch that spans thousands of miles, constantly watching, constantly remembering. It does not move with the roar of an engine or the burst of fire. Those days are long gone. Now it moves with the grace of a falling leaf that never actually hits the ground. It is in a state of perpetual freefall, caught in the loving gravity of Mars. It glides, it drifts. If you could float beside it, you would not hear the wind, for there is no air. But if you placed your hand gently against its metal side, you might feel a faint rhythmic vibration. This is the hum of the machine, the electric heartbeat of the Sentinel. It is a soothing, steady tremor. Deep inside the metal casing, heavy reaction wheels are spinning. They spin not to move the ship forward, but to keep it steady. They turn smoothly thousands of times a minute, ensuring that the Sentinel's eyes remain locked on the planet below. It is a movement so precise it feels like stillness. Mars Express is not just a piece of metal, it is a listener. It carries antennas that stretch out like long thin arms, reaching 40 meters tip to tip. These antennas are listening to the echoes beneath the Martian surface, searching for water hidden deep underground. It works in silence, gathering its data, a diligent librarian, collecting stories from the history of a world that has forgotten how to speak. Drifting in a different path, crossing the sky like a partner in a slow waltz, is the second Sentinel, the trace gas orbiter. This traveller is newer, sharper, and built for a different kind of hunt. While Mars Express looks at the ground, the Trace Gas Orbiter, or TGO, sniffs the air. It is the detective of this duo. Its instruments are incredibly sensitive, designed to catch the scent of gases that make up less than 1% of the atmosphere. It is looking for methane, looking for clues of active biology or geology, searching for the faint chemical breath of the planet. Picture the TGO as it moves from the daylight side of Mars into the night side. As it crosses the Terminator line, the border between day and night, the bright white light of the distant sun is cut off. The solar panels, which stretch out like wide blue wings, stop drinking in the light. For a moment, the temperature drops. The metal contracts with tiny microscopic creaks that only the machine can feel. But the Sentinel is not afraid of the dark. It was built for this cycle. Batteries take over the load, a warm electric current flowing through its veins like blood, keeping the brain of the computer alive. Heaters turn on with a soft, undetectable click, keeping the delicate lenses and sensors warm against the freezing cold of deep space. It is a cozy, self-contained world wrapping itself in warmth while it glides through the shadow of the planet. These two Sentinels do not wander aimlessly. Their paths are not random. They are following a script written in the language of the universe, mathematics. There is something deeply relaxing about the movement of these ships because it is entirely predictable. There are no surprises here. Every curve, every loop, every second of their journey was calculated years ago by minds back on Earth. They are following the laws of celestial mechanics, rules that have existed since the dawn of time. Think of the numbers not as confused equations, but as a safety net. The gravity of Mars pulls the ships inward. Their forward speed pulls them outward. These two forces cancel each other out perfectly. It is a balance of infinite precision. It is a promise that they will not fall and that they will not fly away. They are held safely in the invisible palm of gravity. The preparation for their current mission, listening for the signals from the surface, relied on this mathematical certainty. The engineers adjusted the orbits with tiny bursts of gas nudging the Sentinels into the perfect position. A push of just a few grams of force applied at the exact right second changed their path by hundreds of kilometers over the course of weeks. It is the ultimate example of patience. Now they are in position. They are the relay team. They are the bridge between the silent dust of Mars and the noisy blue world of Earth. They wait for the signal from the rover down below. They are ready to catch the data as it is thrown up from the surface, store it in their memory banks. And then, when the Earth rises above the Martian horizon, beam it home across millions of kilometers of empty space. Imagine the view from the Trace Gas Orbiter right now. Below the planet is a massive curve of rust and ochre. You can see the thin, hazy blue line of the atmosphere hugging the rim, a fragile shell protecting the world. Above the stars are hard, unblinking diamonds, sharper and brighter than they ever appear from Earth. And in the middle of it all, the machine floats. It is peaceful, it is calm, it demands nothing, it simply is. The solar arrays rotate slowly, tracking the distant sun. The communication dish pivots, seeking the signal. Everything moves with the slow, deliberate, oil-smooth motion of a clock. Tick, tock, orbit after orbit, sunrise after sunset. There is no rush in orbit, as time flows differently here. The Sentinels have seen thousands of Martian days. They have watched dust storms grow until they swallowed the whole planet, and they have watched the skies clear again. They have watched the polar ice caps grow white in the winter and shrink in the summer. They are the silent witnesses, the guardians of history. As we prepare to leave them to their vigil, take a moment to feel what they feel. The sensation of falling without fear, the comfort of a path that is already chosen, the quiet satisfaction of a job that is being done perfectly minute after minute, year after year. The mechanical Sentinels continue their watch. Their electronic eyes are open, their antennas are listening, and as they hum their quiet song in the vacuum, they are ready for the next chapter of the story to begin. They are waiting for the voice from the ground. We now move away from the physical edge of the ice crater and step into a different kind of landscape. This is not a landscape of rock and frost, but a landscape of cyan. It is the invisible space between what we know and what remains hidden. As we drift through this mental space, let your mind relax. Let go of the need for immediate answers. Instead, we will float in the quiet mystery of the void of information. There is a profound paradox here. We live in an age where we expect to see everything instantly. If a storm happens on Earth, we see it on our phones within seconds. But Mars is different. Mars is a world of patience. When we look at the Korolev crater or any of the frozen wonders of the Red Planet, we are often looking at images that were captured weeks, months, or sometimes even about years before they were released to the public. This is the first layer of the void, the gap in time. Consider the European Space Agency, or ESA. They are the architects of the Trace Gas Orbiter, the machine that circles Mars like a silent hawk. This machine possesses incredible eyes. Its camera, known as Casa-Essis, can see the surface in colour and in 3 dimensions. It captures the blue-white glow of the ice and the rusty red of the soil with perfect clarity. We know the machine is there. We know it is working. It is scanning the surface, turning light into data and turning data into digital whispers. And yet on Earth, the screens are often dark. There is a stillness. This stillness is not born of anger or malice. The scientists are not hiding the truth because they want to hurt us. They are not keeping the ice a secret to be cruel. Instead, this silence is a byproduct of care. It is the silence of a library or the quiet concentration of an artist before the painting is finished. Imagine the data sitting in a computer server. It is raw, it is unpolished. To the scientist, it is not yet a picture. It is just a collection of numbers. They must check the numbers. They must adjust for the angle of the sun. They must correct the colours to match what the human eye would actually see if we were standing there. This process takes time. It creates a long stretching silence where we, the observers, are left waiting. This is where we find the void. It is the empty space where our curiosity lives. Let us float deeper into this void. Do not feel frustrated by the lack of information. Instead, feel the weight of it. There is a certain beauty in not knowing everything. If the agency released every single image the moment it was taken, the magic might fade. We would become numb to the wonder. But because they hold back, because there are months of silence, the release of a single image becomes a monumental event. The silence makes the eventual sound sweeter. The darkness makes the eventual light brighter. Now expand your mind to the physical reality of this void. Think about the actual distance that information must travel. This is the ultimate relaxation focus, the vast silent ocean of space between worlds. When the orbiter snaps a picture of the ice, that image is turned into radio waves. These waves must leave the atmosphere of Mars. They travel out into the absolute zero of deep space. There is no air here. There is no sound. There is only the endless vacuum. The signal travels at the speed of light, which is 300,000 kilometers per second. That sounds fast, but space is so wide that it still takes time. The signal flies past asteroids. It travels through the emptiness for minutes, crossing millions and millions of kilometers. It is a lonely journey. A tiny spark of information swimming through the dark universe trying to reach home. Sometimes the sun gets in the way. When Mars and Earth are on opposite sides of the star, the radio waves cannot pass through the chaotic plasma of the Zit. The voice of the robot is drowned out by the roar of the star. During these times, the silence is absolute. We are physically cut off. The probe is alone in the dark, collecting ice and shadows, storing them in its memory, waiting for the path to clear. Reflect on this waiting. In our busy lives, we hate to wait. We want the email now, we want the message now, but in the void between planets, waiting is the only law. The silence of the agencies mirrors the silence of space itself. It reminds us that we are small. It reminds us that Mars is not a suburb of Earth. It is a distant alien world that does not care about our schedules. The ice in the crater has sat there for millions of years. It does not mind if we see it today or next year. It is indifferent to our curiosity. There is a peaceful humility in accepting this. We are forced to slow down. We are forced to match the rhythm of the planets. Why are the images withheld? Perhaps it is also because of the uncertainty. Science is about being sure, not about being fast. The scientists at ESA might see something in the ice, a shadow, a shift in the frost, and they want to be 100% certain of what it is before they tell the world. They are protecting the truth. They are guarding the integrity of the discovery. In a world full of noise and fake news, this slow, careful silence is actually a gift. It is a promise that when they finally speak, what they say will be true. So as we dwell in this void of information, let the mystery wash over you. Visualize the servers on Earth humming quietly, full of secrets that have not yet been told. Visualize the orbiter swinging around the red curvature of Mars, seeing things that no human eye has ever seen, keeping those sights to itself for just a little while longer. There is no need to demand answers right now. The ice is not going anywhere. The crater remains frozen in time. Feel the calmness of the secret. A secret is a heavy thing, but it is also a grounding thing. It holds potential energy. The void is not empty. It is full of potential. It is full of the images we will see tomorrow or next month. It is full of the discoveries that are currently just lines of code on a screen in Germany or Spain, waiting to be processed into beauty. This is the nature of the void. It is a space for us to dream. Since we cannot see every inch of the crater right now, our minds must fill in the gaps. We imagine the texture of the ice. We imagine the sound of the wind whistling over the rim. The silence of the data allows our imagination to work. If we saw everything, we would imagine nothing. Breathe into this space. The vast distance between Earth and Mars is a cushion. It buffers us. It slows down the frantic pace of human life. The silence of the agency is just a reflection of the great quiet dark that separates us from our neighbour. Accept the silence. Accept the waiting. In the void of information, we find the space to wonder, and wonder is the most important feeling of all. Let us now leave the dusty surface of the red planet. We are finished with the wheels and the rocks for a moment. Imagine that you are floating upward lighter than air, rising through the thin pink atmosphere. The wind fades away. The sound of the gravel crunching under tires disappears. We are going to the other side of Mars, not to the ground, but to the silent black void above it. Here, floating in the quiet darkness, is a machine called the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. It is a large silver traveller about the size of a school bus gliding through the emptiness. It does not have wheels. It uses solar panels that stretch out like wings, catching the distant sunlight to keep itself awake. It has been here for many years, circling the planet, watching, waiting and recording. Attached to this orbiter is a camera. It is not a normal camera like the one on your phone. It is called HiRISE. This is a very powerful telescope that looks down at the surface. It is the most powerful camera we have ever sent to another planet. It is so precise that from way up here in space it can see a dinner table sitting on the ground. It stares at the planet with a giant, unblinking glass eye. It looks at the polar ice caps, the deep canyons, and the sleeping volcanoes. It sees the beauty of the world below in high definition, capturing colours of rust gold and dusty blue. But there is a story about this machine that is quite special. It is a story that helps us understand a very comforting truth about the universe. It's called the NASA paradox. To understand this, we have to go back in time to October of the year 2013. Back on Earth, things were very loud and very messy. In the United States, where the people who built this machine live, there was a big problem with the government. The politicians were arguing. They could not agree on how to spend money. The arguments became so bad that the government actually shut down. It was a time of great stress. Thousands of people were told to stay home. Office buildings were locked. Emails stopped being answered. At NASA, the space agency, the lights went out in many of the control rooms. The scientists, the engineers and the dreamers who watched the screens every day had to pack up their bags and go home. The visitor centres were closed. The press releases stopped. The constant hum of human activity at the space centres turned into a nervous silence. On the news, everyone was angry. People were shouting on television. There was fear about paychecks, budgets, and the future. It felt like the whole world had ground to a halt because humans could not agree with one another. But millions of kilometres away, something amazing was happening. Or rather, something was not happening. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter did not know about the argument. It did not know about the money. It did not know that the government was closed. It did not care that the humans were angry. In the cold silence of space, the machine continued to glide. It followed the instructions that had been uploaded weeks before. It flew over the Martian equator. It adjusted its solar panels to drink in the sunlight. It pointed its giant camera lens down at the surface. It opened the shutter. Click. It took a picture. It closed the shutter. It flew another few thousand kilometers. Click. It took another picture. While the humans on Earth were stressed and stopped working, the machine in space kept working perfectly. It was completely separated from our drama. The computer on board checked its temperature. It was normal. It checked its battery levels. They were full. It checked its path around the planet. It was perfect. This is the paradox, and it is also the source of our relaxation today. We often feel that our problems are the most important things in the universe. When we have a bad day or when the world seems chaotic, we feel like everything is falling apart. We feel like the sky is falling. But the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter teaches us that the sky is not falling. The universe is holding itself together just fine. The orbit of Mars does not change because we are having a bad week. The rotation of the planets does not speed up or slow down because of human politics. The machines we sent out there operate on the laws of physics, not the laws of human emotion. During that government shutdown while the offices were dark on Earth, the machine captured some of the most beautiful images of Mars we have ever seen. It saw avalanches of ice falling down cliffs near the North Pole. It saw dust devils spinning across the sand dunes. It saw the shadows of craters stretching out long and dark as the sun set over the alien horizon. It stored these images on its hard drive, waiting patiently for the humans to come back. It did not get lonely, it did not get impatient, it just did its job. It floated in the zero gravity, weightless and free. This gives us permission to let go. Think about that machine right now. At this very second while you are reading this, it is still there. It is still circling Mars. It is travelling at thousands of kilometers per hour, but it feels no wind. It hears no sound. It is simply existing in the flow of gravity. It reminds us that the noise of our lives, the arguments, the deadlines, the news, the social media is actually very small. It is stuck on the surface of one small planet. Step back from it. Imagine you are the orbiter. You're floating above it all. You can see the problems, but you're not touched by them. You're too high up. You're too smooth. You're operating on a different timeline. There is a deep comfort in the coldness of the machine. It is not cold in a bad way. It is cold like the cool side of a pillow. It is detached. It is reliable. It suggests that no matter what happens in your life today, the planets will keep spinning. The sun will keep rising. The gravity will keep holding you down. The universe functions smoothly like a well-oiled machine regardless of our human confusion. So let the image of that silver satellite calm you. It is a silent guardian sailing through the sea of stars. It proves that the world keeps going. It proves that stability exists. Even when the lights go out on Earth, the stars are still bright in space. The camera still clicks. The data still flows. The orbit continues round and round in a perfect, peaceful circle that never ends. You can rest in that certainty. You can let your own worries drift away just like the satellite drifts over the red horizon, disappearing into the quiet shadow of the planet, safe and steady in the dark. The wind inside Jezero crater was never truly silent. It was a constant thin whisper, a ghost of a breeze that carried the finest particles of red dust across the ancient lake bed. Here, millions of miles away from the eyes that built it, the machine known as Perseverance continued its slow, deliberate journey. It was a heavy thing the size of a small car, but in the lower gravity of Mars it moved with a kind of gentle grace. There was no rush here. There was only the mission, the landscape, and the time that stretched out endlessly in all directions. The surface of the crater was a mosaic of history. To a casual observer it might have looked like a simple desert of broken stones, but to the sensors of the rover it was a library. The wheels, crafted from aluminum and carved with cleats for traction, rolled over the regolith. Crunch, crack, grind. The sound was sharp and clear in the thin atmosphere. Each rotation of the 6 wheels left a distinct pattern in the reddish-brown sand, a temporary signature that the wind would eventually erase. The rover paused. Its programming had identified a target of interest, a slab of layered rock jutting out from the sediment worn smooth by billions of years of erosion. The machine settled its weight. The hum of its internal motors dropped to a low, steady vibration like the purring of a giant metallic cat. The mechanical arm, a marvel of engineering, unfolded slowly. It did not move with the jerky motions of old science fiction robots. It moved with fluid precision, extending its turret toward the stone. This was the daily life of the explorer. It was a geologist, patient and uncomplaining. It used a laser to zap a tiny point on the rock. The sound was a sharp snap, barely audible, as a puff of plasma vaporized from the surface. The rover analyzed the light from that vapor, tasting the chemistry of the stone without ever touching it. It was looking for carbon, for silicates, for the chemical echoes of water that had flowed here when the solar system was young. The work was slow, methodical, and deeply peaceful. There were no distractions. There was only the rock, the dust, and the data. As the work on the rock finished, the sun began to dip toward the crater rim. The Martian sunset was not like the fiery red sunsets of Earth. Here the sky turned a soft, dusty blue near the sun, fading into a butterscotch haze further away. The shadows stretched out long and ink-black, exaggerating every pebble and ridge on the ground. The temperature began to drop rapidly. The rover could feel the change. Its internal heaters cycled on a faint warmth circulating through its golden chest to keep its battery and computer core safe from the freezing night. According to the schedule uploaded from Earth days ago, it was time to rest the driving motors and turn the gaze upward. The rover was primarily a geologist designed to look down to scour the dirt, but tonight its instructions were to look up. The atmospheric scientists back home wanted data on the opacity of the night sky to measure the dust and the clouds. The masthead, standing tall above the body, tilted back. The camera lenses, the eyes of the machine, adjusted their focus from 2 meters to infinity. The sky above Jezero was fragile. It was a thin veil that barely separated the ground from the vacuum of space. As the sun vanished completely, the stars did not twinkle as they did on Earth. Without a thick, turbulent atmosphere to distort their light, the stars burned, as steady, unblinking points of diamond light against a velvet black canvas. They were hard and bright, and then the show began. The rover was not programmed to appreciate beauty, but it was programmed to record changes in light. Its cameras caught the first streak. It was a meteor, a fragment of the passing comet tail that Earth was also watching. But here the view was different. On Earth, meteors burn up high in the mesosphere, creating long glowing trails. On Mars, the atmosphere is so thin that the meteors penetrate deeper closer to the ground before they burn out. A streak of green-white light slashed across the darkness, silent and swift. Then another, and another. For a moment, the solitary robot was no longer just a geologist. It became an astronomer. It sat perfectly still in the middle of the freezing desert, its wheels locked in the red sand, its neck craning upward. Above it, the silence was broken by the light. The meteors were like silent fireworks. Some were faint scratches of light. Others were brilliant flares that momentarily cast the rover's shadow onto the ground behind it. The camera sensors worked efficiently, snapping frame after frame. It captured the geometry of the shower, the intensity of the burn, and the curve of the trails. It did not feel awe, but the image it captured was one of profound isolation and connection. Here was a machine built by human hands sitting on a dead world, watching the same cosmic rain that humans were watching from their lush blue home millions of miles away. The dust around the rover's wheels settled. The wind died down as the night fully took hold. The only sound was the faint whir of the cooling pumps and the internal ticking of the clock. The meteor shower peaked a silent storm of ice and rock burning up in the thin air. Eventually the command queue moved to the next line of code. The observation window was closed. The mast lowered slightly, returning to a neutral position. The cameras powered down to save energy. The data, the images of the rocks, the sound of the wind, and the pictures of the falling stars was stored safely in the memory banks, waiting for the morning pass of the orbiter to relay it back to Earth. The rover entered its sleep mode. It sat alone in the vastness of Jezero Crater, a small warm speck of intelligence in a cold, dark landscape. It had done its job. It had touched the ancient ground and watched the fleeting sky. And in that absolute stillness surrounded by the rust-coloured rocks and the silent stars, the machine waited patiently for the sun to rise, ready to roll its wheels once again. Far away from the freezing winds of the mountain peak and far removed from the mechanical humming of the giant telescope, the story shifts to a much quieter, smaller space. We are back on the ground in a warm, dimly lit room. This is the domain of the digital archaeologist. Here there is no sound of the wind howling against a metal dome. The only sounds are the soft whirring of computer cooling fans and the rhythmic comforting click of a mouse. The air smells faintly of old books and fresh coffee. In this room sits Simeon Schmoes. He is not wearing a heavy parka or insulated gloves. He sits comfortably in an ergonomic chair, his face illuminated by the soft, cool blue glow of 3 large monitors. While the astronomers on the mountain are the hunters capturing the wild light of the universe, Simeon is the sifter. He is the one who pans for gold in the muddy river of data. His job is to take the raw, messy pictures sent down from the telescope and find the hidden treasures buried within them. This process is not fast. It is not explosive. It is a slow, deliberate, and deeply meditative art form. To understand his work, you must understand what the telescope actually sees. When the camera on the mountain takes a picture of the night sky, it does not look like a crisp, beautiful photograph you might see in a magazine. The raw image is dark, grainy, and full of what scientists call noise. Imagine an old television set tuned to a dead channel showing nothing but dancing grey and black static. That is what the raw data looks like. The universe is faint. The light from a dwarf planet like Varuna has travelled for billions of miles. By the time it reaches the camera sensor, it is incredibly weak. It is competing with the heat of the camera itself, the glowing particles of the Earth's atmosphere, and even the stray light from distant cities. All of these things create noise, which looks like random speckles of dust covering the image. The true signal, the tiny planet, is buried somewhere underneath that digital dust. Simeon's task is to remove the dust without removing the planet. He enters a state of deep, relaxed focus known as flow. He begins the process called stacking. He loads hundreds of separate images taken throughout the night into his computer. Each individual image is poor quality. Each one is grainy and dark. But Simeon knows the secret of the math. The noise in the images is random. It changes from one picture to the next, dancing around like chaotic insects. However, the planet, faint as it is constant. It is always in the same spot relative to the stars around it for that short period. He commands the software to stack these images on top of each other like sheets of tracing paper. It is a process of layering. One sheet is transparent and blurry. But if you stack 50 sheets or 100 sheets, the random marks cancel each other out and the real lines become dark and thick. Simeon watches the progress bar on his screen. It moves slowly from left to right. He does not feel impatient. In this room, time seems to slow down. He takes a sip of his coffee and breathes out slowly. There is a profound sense of peace in this repetition. He is not frantic. He's like a gardener tending to a slow-growing plant or a sculptor gently sanding down a piece of wood to reveal the grain. As the computer processes the numbers, Simeon drifts into the flow. The world outside his office door ceases to exist. There are no emails to answer, no phones ringing, no urgent demands. There is only the data and the rhythm of the search. It is a mental quietness that is rare in the modern world. He watches the histogram, a graph that shows the levels of light and dark gently shifting shapes. He adjusts a slider on the screen, tweaking the contrast, pulling the darks down and pushing the lights up. He is looking for a needle in a haystack, but he has a magnet. Gradually, the image on the main monitor begins to change. The grey fog of static starts to smooth out. The background becomes a uniform deep velvet black. And then the stars begin to pop out. First the bright ones burning like hard white diamonds against the darkness. Then the fainter ones appearing like soft dust. Simeon leans in closer. He is looking for something specific. Stars are fixed points of light, but he's hunting for a wanderer. He's looking for a dot that moves differently than the background stars, or a dot that shouldn't be there at all. He blinks his eyes, scanning the field of pixels. A pixel is the tiniest square of light on a screen. To most people, a bad pixel looks like a mistake. To Simeon, a faint fuzzy cluster of pixels is a voice from the edge of the solar system. There. He spots a faint smudge. It is incredibly dim. If you looked away for a second, you might lose it. It is not a bright shining beacon. It is a whisper of light. It is hovering near the edge of the frame. He does not jump up and shout. The satisfaction here is quiet and internal. It is a warm feeling spreading through his chest, the feeling of a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. He isolates that section of the image. He runs a check. He compares it to the star charts to make sure it isn't a known star or an asteroid passing by. The charts are empty in that location. He cycles through the images in a loop, creating a short movie. The background stars stand still locked in their eternal positions, but the faint smudge moves. It creeps slowly across the field of view, pixel by pixel. It is real. This is the magic of the digital archaeologist. He has reached out across the vast ocean of space, through the turbulence of the atmosphere, through the electronic noise of the camera, and he has pulled out a single grain of truth. That tiny smudge is a world. It is a massive ball of rock and ice, wider than a country spinning in the silent dark billions of miles from where he sits. For a moment, Simeon stops working. He just looks at the grey dot. He thinks about the sunlight that hit that icy rock, bounced off, travelled for hours and hours through the vacuum of space, passed through the clouds above the mountain, hit the sensor, became a number, and is now a photon of light entering his eye in this quiet room. He is the first human being to see this specific ray of light. The flow state gently releases him. He leans back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. The room is still quiet, but the silence now feels heavy with significance. He has found the signal in the noise. The chaos has been ordered. The hidden thing has been seen. It is a slow, deep victory, as satisfying as a long, deep breath after a heavy run. The data is safe. The planet is there. The night's work is done. The signal did not begin with a siren. It did not arrive with the loud breaking of news or the flashing red banners of the emergency broadcasts. Instead, it began as a whisper, a gentle ripple moving through the invisible digital threads that wrap around our world. It started in the quiet corners of the internet, in the forums and message boards where those who love the night sky gather to share their solitude. In the early hours when the world is darkest and the city lights have mostly dimmed, the amateur astronomers are awake. They are the silent sentinels of the planet. They sit on cold rooftops in London, in dry backyards in Arizona, and on humid balconies in Singapore. They are usually alone, accompanied only by the low hum of their telescope motors and the steam rising from a mug of tea. But tonight the solitude was dissolving. The awakening of curiosity started with a single post. It was just a set of coordinates and a simple question: is anyone else seeing this fluctuation in the light curve? Under normal circumstances, such a post might go unanswered for hours, but the beauty of this community lies in its constant shifting vigilance. As the sun sets in one part of the world, the watchers in the next time zone are just uncovering their lenses. The relay is continuous. Within minutes, a reply came from an observatory shed in rural Australia, then another from a university student in Chile. then a retired engineer in Germany. It was not chaos. Chaos is noisy and confusing. This was something different. It was a symphony of confirmation. It was the sound of 100 distinct minds tuning into the same frequency. Imagine a map of the world in a dark room. Slowly, one by one, tiny lights begin to turn on. A light in the Andes Mountains, a light in the suburbs of Tokyo, a light on a farm in the American Midwest. These were not lights of panic, they were lights of understanding. The information travelled through fibre optic cables and satellite links carrying not fear but raw, pure data. The data itself was beautiful in its simplicity. It was a sequence of numbers representing brightness and time. To the untrained eye, it looked like a dry spreadsheet, but to the community it was a narrative. They saw the numbers dipping and rising, creating a pattern that had never been recorded before. It was a rhythm. It was a heartbeat coming from deep space. In a small apartment in Toronto, a young woman named Elena adjusted her screen. She felt a shiver not from the cold Canadian winter, but from the profound sense of connection. She typed a message to a user named Hiroki in Japan. They had never met. They did not speak the same spoken language fluently, but here in the glow of the monitor they spoke the language of mathematics and light. Confirmed, she typed. Magnitude drop is 0.04, period is steady. I have the same, Hiroki replied seconds later. The pattern repeats every 42 minutes. There is a profound relaxation that comes with shared truth. Often in life we worry if we are seeing things correctly. We doubt our own perceptions, we argue over opinions and perspectives. But in astronomy, the sky is the great equalizer. The star does not care who you are, how much money you make, or what you believe. It simply is. And when two people on opposite sides of the planet measure the same photon of light and get the same result, a bridge is built between them. It is a bridge made of reality. As the night deepened in the Americas and dawn approached Europe, the network grew denser. The conversation shifted from, "What is this?" to "Let us measure it together." People began to coordinate their observations. It was a massive, decentralized collaboration. A mechanic in Brazil realized his telescope could track the object for another 2 hours before the sun rose. He messaged a banker in New Zealand telling him to get ready to take over the watch when the Brazilian sky turned blue. They were passing the torch. They were holding the gaze of humanity steady, refusing to let the object slip away into the daylight. There was a peaceful rhythm to this work. It involved checking charts, calibrating sensors, and waiting. The waiting was not anxious. It was the patient waiting of a gardener watching a flower bloom or a musician waiting for their cue. In this shared space, the boundaries of nations melted away. There were no borders in the sky, and for this night there were no borders on Earth. There was only the night side and the day side, and the constant flow of data between them. The text messages and emails flying back and forth were polite, precise, and filled with a quiet joy. Great data, thank you. Clear skies to you. Excellent tracking. These simple phrases carried a heavy weight of emotion. They meant I see you, I value your mind, we are looking at the same mystery. Somewhere in the quiet hum of this global machine, the realization hit everyone. We are not just individuals looking through glass tubes. We have become a single planetary eye. By connecting our small backyard telescopes, we have created an instrument as wide as the Earth itself. The information did not stay contained in the technical forums. It began to seep out into the wider world, but it moved gently. It was not a breaking news alert that demands your attention with fear. It was a story that invited people to look up. A father in France woke his daughter to show her the star chart on his computer. He explained, whispering so as not to wake the rest of the house, that people all over the world were watching a specific point in the constellation of Cygnus. He showed her the names of the people in the chat room, names from India, South Africa, Iceland. The little girl did not understand the physics of the light curve, but she understood the feeling. She understood that she was part of a team. She felt safe held in the web of curious minds. The awakening was also a return to the basics of being human. Before we had screens and cities, our ancestors sat around fires and looked at the stars. They shared stories about what they saw. Tonight was no different. The digital screens were just the modern campfires. The stories were now told in graphs and coordinates, but the spirit was the same. It was the spirit of, look at that, isn't it wonderful? Isn't? As the hours passed, the data became more refined. The noise was filtered out. The truth became sharper. The anomaly was not a glitch in a camera or a smudge on a lens. It was real. It was a new variable in the great equation of the cosmos. The relaxation found in this chapter of the story comes from the absence of ego. No one was trying to claim the discovery for themselves. No one was trying to sell it. The atmosphere was one of pure altruism. The astronomer in Ohio uploaded his raw data files to the cloud free for anyone to use. The coder in Berlin wrote a quick script to help visualize the light waves and posted the link for everyone. It was a demonstration of what humanity looks like when it is at its best, curious, cooperative, and unified by a sense of wonder. By the time the sun began to rise over the Pacific Ocean, the community had built a complete picture of the phenomenon. They had tracked it for a full 24-hour rotation. They had validated the numbers. They had done the work of science not in a sterile laboratory, but in pajamas, in attics, and in garden sheds. The fear of the unknown, which often plagues the human mind, was replaced by the thrill of the unknown. The unknown was not a monster, it was a puzzle, and humans love a puzzle. As the participants slowly signed off one by one, heading to bed or heading to work, they carried a lightness in their chests. They had been part of something larger than themselves. They had touched the fabric of the universe and found that it connected them to their neighbour. The awakening of curiosity was not a loud explosion. It was the quiet opening of 1,000 eyes. It was the realization that even in the vast cold dark of space, we are not alone, not because of aliens, but because we have each other. We have the connection of the shared gaze. When we look up together, the silence of the universe stops being lonely and starts being peaceful. The information had spread, the network was alive, and the world was awake, watching the sky with a gentle, unified breath. Now let us drift away from the familiar comforts of our blue home. Let your imagination travel across the vast, silent ocean of space. Visualize yourself descending gently like a feather landing softly on the dusty, rust-colored surface of Mars. Take a moment to settle here. Feel the difference in weight. On Earth, you are pulled down by gravity. Here you feel lighter, about 1/3 of your weight on Earth. It is a sensation of release, as if the planet itself is holding you gently, requiring less effort just to stand, just to be. As you stand on this alien soil, the sun begins to set. The sky does not turn the orange and red we know. Instead, it glows with a soft blue twilight near the sun, fading into a deep butterscotch colour, and finally settling into a pitch black. We are here to understand the Martian vantage point. Why is this the perfect place for an astronomer? Why would a telescope placed here see things that even the best mountains on Earth cannot reveal? The secret lies in the air, or rather the lack of it. Think of the Earth's atmosphere as a thick, heavy blanket. It is composed of nitrogen, oxygen, and water vapour. It is dense. When you look up at the stars from Earth, you are not looking through empty space. You are looking through a swimming pool. The air on Earth is fluid. It moves. It has currents, heat waves, and layers of different temperatures. Now think about the physics of light. A beam of light is made of photons. These tiny packets of energy travel from a distant star for millions of years in a perfectly straight line. They cross the galaxy without hitting anything. But the moment that light hits Earth's atmosphere, it encounters obstacles. The photons bounce off molecules of nitrogen. They are bent by pockets of hot and cold air. This bending of light is called refraction. Because Earth's air is constantly churning and mixing, the light bends this way, then that way, hundreds of times per second. This is why stars twinkle. While Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is a beautiful song for an astronomer, twinkling is a problem. It means the image is blurry, it means the information is distorted. Now breathe in deeply and imagine the air on Mars. The atmosphere here is incredibly thin. It is less than 1% of the density of Earth's atmosphere. It is almost a vacuum. It is made mostly of carbon dioxide. Because the air is so thin, it does not act like a thick swimming pool. It acts like a fragile, barely there veil. When the light from that same distant star reaches Mars, it does not have to fight its way through thick layers of gas. It creates a direct path. There is very little refraction. There is almost no bending of the light. If you were to look up at the Martian night sky, the first thing you would notice is the stillness. The stars do not twinkle here. They do not dance or shimmer. They are steady, piercing points of light. They look like diamonds, frozen in a block of clear ice. This stability allows you to see the true colour of the stars, the icy blue of hot stars, the deep ruby red of dying giants without any distortion. Let's go deeper into the optics. On Earth, we have something called atmospheric extinction. This is a fancy term that simply means the air absorbs some of the light. It dims the stars. Water vapour acts like a fog even on nights that look clear to the human eye. But here on the red planet, the air is incredibly dry. There is almost no water vapour to absorb the faint light of distant galaxies. Imagine you're holding a camera lens. On Earth, that lens is a little bit dirty, maybe a little bit foggy. You have to wipe it constantly. On Mars, the lens is pristine. It is crystal clear. This is why the view is so sharp. You can see fainter stars, deeper clusters, and more delicate structures of nebulae that would be completely invisible from the surface of our home planet. Consider the darkness. On Earth, true darkness is an endangered species. Even in the countryside, the glow of distant cities reflects off the clouds and the moisture in the air. This is called light pollution. It turns the black sky into a muddy grey. On Mars, there are no cities, there are no streetlights, there are no neighbours leaving their porch lights on. When the sun goes down, the darkness is absolute. It is a velvet black that feels deep and endless. This perfect contrast makes the stars pop out with an intensity that is startling. Picture the Milky Way. On Earth, in a good location, it looks like a faint milky cloud. From your vantage point on Mars, the Milky Way looks like a structured three-dimensional sculpture of light. You can see the dark lanes of dust blocking the starlight. You can see the bright core of the galaxy. It feels close enough to touch. As you stand there in the silence, two unusual stars might catch your eye. They are moving faster than the others. These are Phobos and Deimos, the two moons of Mars. They are not round like our moon, they are shaped like potatoes or asteroids. Because the air is so clear, you wouldn't just see them as dots of light. If you had a simple pair of binoculars, you could see their craters and their uneven shapes as they drift across the background of steady, unmoving stars. The physics of this place invites clarity, it invites focus. Let this concept sink into your mind as a form of relaxation. Think of your own mind like the atmosphere. Sometimes on Earth, our minds are like the thick, turbulent air. We have thoughts swirling around, worries rising like heat waves clouding our vision. We cannot see clearly because there is too much noise, too much movement. Now try to make your mind like the atmosphere of Mars. Let the density drop. Let the pressure fade away. Let the turbulence settle down. Imagine your thoughts becoming thin and transparent. The noise of the day, the traffic, the conversations, the screens fades into the absolute silence of the Martian desert. In this state of mental clarity, just like the Martian sky, you can see things as they really are. The distortion is gone, the twinkling confusion stops. You are left with a steady, unwavering light. Feel the cold, crisp stillness of the environment. It is not a scary cold, it is a preserving cold that keeps everything sharp. There is no wind to rustle the trees, for there are no trees. There are no waves crashing on the shore, for there are no oceans. There is only the ground beneath your feet and the window to the universe above your head. From this vantage point, you realize that the atmosphere which protects life on Earth also hides the universe from us. To see the truth of the cosmos, we must step away from the protective blanket. We must go where the air is thin. Take one last look at the sky in your imagination. Pick out a single star. Watch how steady it is. It does not waver. It is a beacon of calm in the velvet night. Let that stability enter your breathing. In and out. Steady, unchanging, clear. You are safe here. You're an observer on a quiet world watching the grand machinery of the universe turn slowly, silently, and with perfect precision. To gaze upon 3i Atlas is to look into a time capsule that has been sealed for longer than Earth has existed. We are not merely analysing a rock, we are reading a diary written by the universe itself. This object is a traveller from the deep unknown, and to understand it we must become alchemists of the mind, breaking down its strange recipe to understand how it was cooked in the fires of a distant dying star. The alien recipe. When astronomers look at a comet, they do not touch it. They touch the light that bounces off it. By taking the light from 3i Atlas and spreading it out into a rainbow of colours, we can see dark lines that act like a barcode. This barcode tells us exactly what ingredients are inside. In our own solar system, comets are like dirty snowballs made from a very specific family recipe of water, ice dust, and frozen gases. But 3i Atlas is different. Its chemistry tastes wrong. It is rich in carbon chains molecules that look like the backbones of life, but it has a very strange ratio of oxygen to nitrogen. It contains an unusual amount of a molecule called cyanogen. This is a combination of carbon and nitrogen. While our local comets have this too, 3i Atlas holds it in a way that suggests it was born in a place much colder and darker than the nursery that formed our sun. It also holds frozen carbon monoxide in high quantities. For this ice to survive, the comet must have formed in the terrified, shivering outer edges of its home system, far away from the warmth of its parent star. This chemical makeup is the first proof that it does not belong to us. It is a sample of soil from a neighbour's garden carrying the distinct chemical flavour of a different part of the Milky Way galaxy. The mystery of density and structure. Perhaps the most baffling aspect of this visitor is its physical body. When we try to measure how heavy it is compared to its size, the numbers are surprising. 3I Atlas is incredibly light. It is not a solid rock like an asteroid, nor is it a hard block of ice. Imagine a cloud of smoke that has been frozen instantly, or a structure made of fairy floss cotton candy that has hardened over billions of years. It is porous. It is filled with holes and empty spaces. It is a fractal object, meaning it is built of tiny clusters of dust that stuck together, which then stuck to other clusters, forming a fragile, lacy architecture. How can something so fragile survive a journey across the galaxy? This is the paradox. It has travelled light years dodging gravity and radiation, yet it is held together by forces so weak they are almost like a whisper. It suggests that the space between stars is gentler than we thought, allowing this delicate dust bunny of the cosmos to float unharmed until it reached the heat of our sun, the ghost of a magnetic field. Deep inside this fragile structure lies another secret magnetism. When 3I Atlas formed, it was swirling in a disk of gas and dust around a young star. That ancient environment had a magnetic field in visible lines of force that guided how the dust clumped together. The particles inside 3I Atlas are like tiny compass needles. They aligned themselves with that ancient magnetic field billions of years ago and then froze into place. As the comet tumbles through our system, it carries a magnetic memory. It is a snapshot of the magnetic forces that existed around a star that might not even exist anymore. It is a recording of the forces that shaped a solar system completely different from our own. The journey, a story of atoms. Now let us step back from the science and let our minds drift into the philosophy of this object. This is the alchemy of the stars. Every single atom in 3I Atlas has a history. Billions of years ago, before this comet existed, those atoms were inside the heart of a giant star. That star burned bright and hot, fusing simple hydrogen into heavier elements like carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. It was a cosmic furnace. Eventually that star ran out of fuel, it exploded or puffed its outer layers into space. It died so that something else could be born. These atoms, the carbon, the oxygen, were thrown out into the violent cold void. They drifted for eons as a shimmering nebula, a cloud of colourful gas. Slowly gravity pulled them together. In the cold darkness, an atom of carbon met an atom of oxygen and hugged it tight to form carbon monoxide. Dust grains coated in ice began to bump into each other, sticking together, like friends holding hands in the dark. They built the body of 3I Atlas. Then a gravitational kick perhaps from a giant planet in that alien system threw it out. It was evicted from its home. For millions, perhaps billions of years, it floated in total silence. Absolute darkness. Absolute cold. It was a lonely seed drifting across the great ocean of nothingness between the stars. It passed through clouds of interstellar gas. It witnessed the light of galaxies far away. It was frozen in a deep sleep, preserving its chemical secrets perfectly. We are all connected. When 3I Atlas releases its gas as it warms up near our sun, it is releasing atoms that have not been free for eons. It is breathing out the breath of a dead star. This brings us to a profound realization. The chemistry inside this visitor is not so different from the chemistry inside you and me. We are made of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and water. The alchemy that created the materials of 3I Atlas is the same alchemy that created the materials for the Earth and for your body. We tend to think of aliens as green men in ships, but 3I Atlas shows us that the ingredients for life are everywhere. The universe is a chef that uses the same spices in every kitchen, just in different amounts. This comet is a messenger. It tells us that we are not isolated. The material of the universe flows. It moves from star to star, from system to system. We are just one temporary arrangement of these wandering atoms. Watching 3I Atlas is like watching a long-lost cousin walk through our front door. It looks different, it smells of strange places, and it speaks a language of magnetic fields we struggle to understand. But deep down in the heart of its atoms, it is made of the same stardust that runs through our veins. It reminds us that in this vast dark universe, matter is never truly lost. It is just on a very, very long journey home. As the calendar turns to November, the great cosmic stage is set for a final spectacular performance. We find ourselves deep in the silence of the solar system, far from the noise and rush of Earth. Here, floating with purpose and precision, is our silent observer, the JUICE spacecraft. JUICE, which stands for the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, was built to study the giant planet Jupiter and its frozen moons. However, in this vast emptiness, their paths align in a moment of serendipity. The spacecraft becomes a witness to a rare event acting as our eyes in the dark. It is not just a machine of metal and sensors. In this moment, it is a traveller watching another traveller. The spacecraft is calm, steady and ready. Its large solar wings drink in the sunlight, powering its systems as it waits for the guest of honour to arrive. The celestial object we have been following is no longer the cold, dark rock it was months ago. It is approaching its perihelion. In simple terms, this is the point in its long oval-shaped path where it gets closest to the Sun. For millions of years, this object has floated in the freezing outer edges of space, a place of eternal sleep and stillness. But now it is diving into the fire. This is the climax of its journey, a delicate and dangerous meeting between the deepest cold of space and the searing heat of our star. This meeting creates a magnificent transformation, a true dance of ice and fire. Imagine the surface of the object. For eons, it has been frozen solid, harder than rock, covered in ancient ice made of water, carbon dioxide and other frozen gases. As it rushes toward the Sun, the temperature begins to rise rapidly. It does not melt into a liquid like an ice cube on a warm table. In the vacuum of space, the pressure is so low that the ice skips the liquid stage entirely. It transforms instantly from a solid block directly into a gas. This process is called sublimation, and it is the engine that drives the beauty we are about to see. Under the intense glare of the Sun, the object begins to wake up. The surface begins to hiss and crackle silently. Jets of gas burst outward from deep crevices like geysers waking from a long sleep. These jets carry with them tiny grains of ancient dust particles that have been trapped in the ice since the very beginning of the solar system. As the gas expands, it creates a glowing cloud around the heart of the object. Astronomers call this the coma. But to the eyes of our imagination, it looks like a halo. It is a soft, fuzzy aura of light that surrounds the dark center, softening its edges and making it glow against the pitch-black background of space. This is the object shedding its skin, releasing the weight of the past to shine in the present. But the transformation does not stop there. The Sun is not just a source of heat, it is also a source of wind. A stream of invisible particles known as the solar wind flows out from the Sun constantly. When this solar wind hits the cloud of gas and dust surrounding our object, it pushes it backward. This force sculpts the cloud into a magnificent tail. From the vantage point of the JUICE spacecraft, we see this tail stretching out for thousands and thousands of kilometers behind the object. It is not a trail of smoke, but a river of sparkling dust. Each tiny grain of dust catches the sunlight, glittering like a diamond. Together, millions of them create a fan of light that sweeps across the stars. It is a structure of pure elegance, painted with light and motion. The colours are subtle but breathtaking. There are shades of white and silver from the water ice, perhaps a touch of blue from the gas, and hints of gold from the dust reflecting the sun. It is a ghostly, ethereal brushstroke on the canvas of the universe. This is the moment of maximum brightness. The object, once a hidden wanderer in the dark, is now a radiant star in its own right. It is absorbing the sun's energy and reflecting it back with a defiant brilliance. It is a celebration of existence. It reminds us that even the coldest, most dormant things can shine brilliantly when the conditions are right. Through the lenses of JUICE, we watch this silent drama unfold. There is no sound here. The jets of gas erupt in silence. The dust streams away in silence. The only sensation is the visual rhythm of light and shadow. It is a peaceful intensity. The object is travelling at incredible speeds, thousands of kilometers per hour. Yet from our distance, it appears to float gracefully. It hangs in the void, a suspended moment of beauty. As the object passes the perihelion, it survives the fire. It does not burn up completely, it endures. It swings around the sun, using the star's massive gravity to sling itself back outward. The dance reaches its final pose. The object turns its back to the sun and begins its long journey home. Slowly, very slowly, the heat will fade. The jets of gas will quiet down. The glowing halo will shrink and the magnificent tail will thin out and disappear. The sparkling dust will scatter into the void, becoming seeds for future stars or planets. The object will cool down, returning to its frozen slumber. It will become a dark silhouette, once more hiding in the shadows of the outer solar system. But for now, in this month of November, we simply watch the light. We appreciate the fleeting nature of this spectacle. It is a reminder that beauty is often temporary, created by the meeting of opposites. Cold and heat, dark and light, silence and energy. As the object begins to fade from the view of the JUICE spacecraft drifting away into the deep black ocean of space, we are left with a sense of calm. The show is over, and the universe returns to its steady rhythmic breathing. The traveller returns to the night carrying the memory of the fire within its icy heart. We let go of the image, watching the last glimmer of its tail dissolve into the starlight, leaving us in a peaceful, quiet darkness ready for rest. It is easy to feel frustration when we face a wall of silence. When we look up at the stars and see mysteries that defy explanation, and then look down at our institutions only to find closed doors and redacted documents, the natural reaction is often anger. We feel as though we are being treated like children denied the truth that belongs to all of us. However, if we take a step back and breathe deeply, we can begin to see this silence not as a conspiracy of malice, but as a complex, almost desperate attempt to maintain the rhythm of human civilization. We can call this the symphony of control. To understand this silence, we must first look at what human society actually is. At its core, our civilization is built on the foundation of predictability. We wake up, we go to work, we pay our bills, and we plan for the future based on the assumption that the world tomorrow will be roughly the same as the world today. Our economies, our laws, and even our religions rely on a stable definition of reality. We have spent thousands of years building a box of understanding, labeling everything inside it, and creating rules for how those things interact. Now imagine what happens when something from outside the box appears. It is not just a new discovery, it is a fundamental challenge to the structure of the box itself. If the organizations tasked with keeping society running were to suddenly admit that the box is open, that the rules of physics as we know them are incomplete, or that we are not the only intelligent architects in the neighborhood, the immediate result would not be enlightenment. It would likely be chaos. Therefore, the silence we encounter is not necessarily born of evil intent, it is born of fear. Not fear of the aliens or the phenomena themselves, but fear of us. It is a fear of how fragile our social agreements really are. The people in these organizations are often viewed as shadowy figures, holding on to power. But viewed through a lens of compassion, they can be seen as overwhelmed custodians. They are like parents trying to keep the house calm while a storm rages outside. They close the curtains and turn up the music not to deceive the children, but to keep them from panicking so that the household can continue to function. This is the burden of control. It is the heavy weight carried by those who believe that it's their duty to maintain the narrative of normal life. They are playing a specific instrument in this symphony. Their role is to provide the baseline, the steady, repetitive beat that allows the rest of the melody, our daily lives, to continue without interruption. If they were to stop playing that steady beat and let the chaotic noise of the infinite flood in the song of our civilization might fall apart. When we realize this, the anger begins to fade, replaced by a sense of pity and profound perspective. We realize that their control is actually an illusion. They are trying to build a dam against the ocean with sticks and stones. They are trying to legislate the infinite. There is something almost touching about the human attempt to categorize and redact the cosmos. It highlights our vulnerability. We are a young species clinging to our small rock, terrified that if we admit we do not know everything, we will lose the little stability we have managed to build. Let us zoom out further, moving our minds away from the frantic offices of intelligence agencies and out into the quiet velvet of space. From this vantage point, the secrets that governments keep seem incredibly small. The universe operates on a scale that makes human secrecy irrelevant. A star does not ask for permission to burn. A galaxy does not care if its existence is classified top secret. The laws of nature, gravity, electromagnetism, the speed of light, which travels at roughly 300,000 kilometers per second, do not bend to the will of human policy. The phenomena we witness, those lights in the sky that move in ways we cannot understand, are part of a reality that existed long before our governments were formed and will exist long after they are gone. The silence of an organization cannot mute the grandeur of the cosmos. In fact, their silence only serves to highlight the magnitude of the mystery. It is a testament to the fact that there are things so big, so profound, and so radically different from our daily experience that our current social structures simply cannot process them. So instead of banging on the locked doors of these institutions, we can choose to sit quietly into the garden of the unknown. We can appreciate the silence for what it is, a pause in the music, a gap where we are free to wonder without being told what to think. The lack of official confirmation forces us to look inward and upward with our own eyes. It invites us to build a personal relationship with the infinite rather than waiting for a press release to tell us it is safe to do so. We can forgive the gatekeepers. We can understand that they are trapped in their own game, forced to play by the rules of a system that demands certainty in an uncertain universe. They are fighting to keep the world small and manageable while we are free to embrace a world that is vast and wild. In this state of relaxation, we realize that we do not need their validation. The truth of the universe is not found in a redacted file. It is found in the feeling of awe when we look at the moon. It is found in the realization that we are made of the same carbon and energy as the stars. The symphony of the universe is playing all around us loud and clear. The fact that some people choose to wear earplugs or try to close the windows does not stop the music. Let them have their control. Let them have their secrets and their silent rooms. It is a heavy burden to carry the weight of trying to be the masters of reality. We can leave that weight with them. We can choose to be the listeners, the observers, the dreamers who understand that the universe is far too big to ever be fully controlled, and that is a beautiful thing. There is peace in knowing that our human dramas, our politics, and our desperate attempts to hide the truth are just tiny ripples in a cosmic ocean. The ocean remains, the infinite remains, and in the end the truth does not need to be declassified to be true. It simply is. We can rest in that isness, floating in the vast quiet comfort of a universe that requires no paperwork to be magnificent. The journey is reaching its quiet end. After all the miles travelled, after all the heat and the light and the magnificent storms of energy, the little traveller known as 3Y Atlas is finally ready to rest. Imagine, if you will, the vast velvety curtain of space. It is darker than any night you have ever known on Earth, a deep endless black that stretches out in every direction. But it is not a lonely darkness, it is a peaceful one. It is the silence that holds the stars. In this vast expanse, the probe is now just a tiny speck. If you were floating there beside it, you would see that its engines are cold, its thrusters are sant. There is no vibration, no hum of machinery, no sudden movements. It is simply drifting. It has done everything it was built to do. It has seen the fires of the sun up close. It has measured the invisible winds that blow between the planets, and now its work is finished. It is like a runner who has crossed the finish line and is now slowing down to a gentle walk, catching its breath under the open skewer. Slowly, very slowly, Atlas begins to turn away from us. It is moving further out, drifting towards the edge of the system. Ahead of it lies the great golden disk of the sun, but this time the probe is not flying toward the light. It is flying past it. From your perspective here on Earth, it looks as if the probe is playing a game of hide and seek. It is moving to the far side of the star. Watch in your mind's eye as the shape of the probe begins to touch the edge of the sun's brilliance. The light is blindingly bright, a white and gold radiance that fills the view, but Atlas is small and the sun is a giant. The little machine slips behind the curve of the star. First the long antennas disappear, fading into the glare. Then the body of the craft, wrapped in its protective shield, slides out of view. Finally, the last glimmer of its metal shell catches the light one last time, a tiny spark against the fire before it vanishes completely. It has gone behind the curtain. It is hidden now. The radio signals have stopped. The stream of data that flowed like a river of numbers back to Earth has dried up. There is only the static of the cosmos, the gentle hiss of the universe breathing. But it is not gone in spirit. Think for a moment about what remains. Before it drifted into the silence, Atlas gave us a gift. It sent back libraries of knowledge. Because of this little traveller, we know more about the solar wind, those streams of particles that dance from the sun to the Earth. We understand the magnetic fields that twist and turn like invisible ribbons in the dark. We know the temperature of the corona measured in millions of degrees. These are not just numbers. They are secrets that the universe whispered to the probe, and the probe whispered them back to us. That knowledge is safe now. It is stored in our computers, written in our books, and held in the minds of people who look up at the sky with wonder. The legacy of Atlas is secure. It taught us that even in the most chaotic fires there is a pattern. There is a rhythm to the solar storms and a structure to the heat. It showed us that the universe is knowable if only we are brave enough to go and look. But now the looking is over. Now is the time for letting go. There is a profound peace in realizing that we cannot hold on to everything. The probe is drifting away from us further than any hand can reach, further than any signal can climb. It is moving into the shadows, into the places where our maps end. And that is okay. It is beautiful even. Imagine the probe now on the other side of the sun. It is floating in the shadow. The intense heat it once felt is blocked by the body of the star. It is cooling down, the metal is relaxing, the sensors are sleeping. It is entering a long, eternal hibernation. It becomes a part of the solar system itself, just another rock, just another piece of dust floating in the great ballet of gravity. It belongs to the void now. You can feel that same sense of release in your own body. Just as Atlas has released its tension and turned off its engines, you can have you turn off the engines of your mind. You do not need to solve any more problems today. You do not need to gather any more data. You do not need to worry about the future or analyze the past. Like the probe, you have done your work. You have traveled through your day, you have faced your own challenges, and now you have reached the quiet space behind the sun. Let the image of the probe fading into the distance help you fade into sleep. It is drifting further and further away, becoming smaller and smaller, until it is nothing more than a memory. It is sailing on an endless ocean of night carried by the gentle currents of gravity. It is weightless. It is free. And as it drifts, the universe continues around it. The planets will keep spinning in their perfect circles. The moons will keep watching over their worlds. The stars will continue to burn with their steady ancient light. The galaxies will continue to rotate in the deep distance. This great majestic clockwork does not need us to wind it. It does not need us to watch it. It simply is. There is a great comfort in that thought. The universe is holding you. You are small just like the probe, but you are part of something infinite. You are made of the same stuff as the stars and the drifting dust. You are safe here on this blue island, protected by the same magnetic fields that Atlas went to study. So let the mystery take over. There will always be questions we cannot answer. There will always be places we cannot reach. There will always be echoes that fade into the void before we can hear them clearly. Let them go. Let the mysteries float away like bubbles in the wind. You do not need to know everything, you only need to rest. Visualize the darkness of space one last time. It's not empty. It is full of potential. It is a soft, heavy blanket wrapped around the world. It is quiet. The only sound is the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. In and out, slow and deep, like the tides of the cosmos. 3. I, Atlas, has found its peace in the shadows. It is drifting into forever, silent and still. It has joined the history of the stars, and now you can join the silence too. The mission is complete. The data is safe. The journey is over. Drift away now. Let your thoughts float like dust motes in a sunbeam, turning slowly shimmering and then settling down. Let the heavy gravity of sleep pull you down deeper and deeper into the warm, welcoming dark. The stars are watching over you. The universe is cradling you. Everything is exactly where it is meant to be. Drift, float, sleep.